welcome to the session. We have the chart of Jenna here, and you are a little bit of more experienced astrology user, if I remember correctly from your postings. You know your way around quite a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. Still, even though you might know it, I would explain certain things maybe a little bit more in detail than you would need it, so that everyone can follow.
Yeah.
So, thanks a lot for sending questions. Is there anything else that came to mind now, or would you like me to start going through the questions, and then whenever you find some detail that you want to discuss, you would just stop me, okay?
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. Go. So the first question that you sent is, how can I find a location that I would like living at? Where can I feel healthy and active? And that's so far an interesting question, because it's the first one that you sent, not as like generic questions like profession, love life, or whatever. You ask the place of living we see in the fourth house, or at the beginning of the fourth house, and where we have Venus. Venus for you is in Leo. That would mean you need a place that has style and generosity, like a generous space. You have a trine to Saturn, so it would need to be a stable and generous place. So that's what you would love. For instance, a Leo country would be France, a typical Leo country. And you are currently in Portugal. From the generosity point of view, this should also work well. Like southern places and kingdoms, countries who still have a king, would also be in question there. So this would be something like rigid countries like Germany, for instance, as rigid in terms of they like their processes and they like everything in order and very strict. This would be less optimal, I would say, for you. Generally, you said when we started the conversation, you said that you traveled a lot. Would this be something that already manifested in your life? You said like you travel somewhere and then you think, it's nice, I'd live here for a while. So this seems to be the case already, right?
Actually, I was curious about you saying that places where everything is in order and very strict. I was like, actually, I really like that. Like, I spent some time in Austria, and I really connected with how they did everything, and I really like grid structure streets and everything like that. So maybe that has to do with my Capricorn moon, but it could also be something that yeah, I don't know, I'm a little bit curious about that, because I do like that structure.
All right. Well, I'm at the moment in Austria, interestingly enough, and there is a difference between the Austrian type of orderly and the German type of orderly. How to describe this? The German type of orderly is like an Aries. Germany is also an Aries country, and it's a bit more pushy on the structure. And the Austrians they like their structure, but relaxed, like in an easygoing, flowing manner. And in Germany, like almost like military strict. So there's like a difference in the attitude. And so I thought that Austria, with like a little bit of a laid back mentality, still having the structure, but laid back would be, and also Austria has this heritage like being an imperial country with had an emperor and all these kinds, and this seems to be a little bit in the genes still here, where in Germany you don't have this at all. So even negotiation goes very fine in Austria, and in Germany it's rather strict. I'm not sure, honestly, to be straightforward with your moon. Your moon has a little bit of a difficulty with Saturn, like a restriction in the feeling and emotionality. Seems to be the case. And let me just have a look where this can come from. Ah, yeah, Saturn rules the 12th house and the unconscious. And the moon is in the 12th house for the unconscious. So Saturn rules the moon and the emotionality in kind of a double way. So I would not recommend that you go for things that suppress emotionality, but rather for places and people who would free your emotionality, like support your emotionality, be gentle and caring, and less strict on expectations and everything else. And in a way, we like what we know from when we grew up, because we recognize that this is love, which is interesting. In your case, I would rather recommend you go for something more easygoing, still structured. I mean, Austria would fit well here as well. Austria is a Libra country, by the way. Vienna and Austria both have Libra risings in the foundation horoscopes. So we have a lot of Libras here. It's because people with Libra type, they move here because they like it. And that's a very harmonious type of approach that would also appeal to your rising, because your Aquarius rising would like its liberty. Your Uranus actually at the start of the 11th house would indicate also that you relocate abroad. You relocate for friends abroad, because in the 11th house could also be counted toward the 10th house, because it's very much in between. So you could also work abroad. This is one of your other questions that you had. And it's in Sagittarius. So an Uranus in Sagittarius would have interest in the world, and not just like some other country, but the world. So maybe for you, even living a couple of years here and a couple of years there, if your work environment would allow this, we'll still get to that a little later, for you would be a normal thing to do. So basically, you're not tied to a country. I would like to address with your first question also the 4th house, because the 4th house is your home and your heritage. So now there you have Lilith and Chiron. Start with Lilith first. Lilith has a trine to your rising, which in general would be a good thing and supportive. But Lilith as such, the Lilith quality in the personal heritage, family and home country would indicate some pain. There would be some pain related with the home country or with the home. It could be subtle or known, so you might be aware of it or not. And the same is valid here for Chiron. And since both planets are in Gemini, that could relate to something in conversation. So the pain point could be somewhere in conversation in the home or in your birth family. This could also be a reason why you decided to try another country, and it's a healthy thing to do for you. So relocating is something that will be indicated. The interesting thing is that your Saturn is on midheaven, which would typically indicate that you don't reach your goals right away, but you need patience, and then it works out. For you, it may be the impression it takes endless time and longer and longer. It's like a test for the patience. But eventually you get there and you find more stability in your own future than in your own home and heritage. Saturn in general here, I would also say, is the planet that you should try to own. Like make it yours, and instead of others guide you, decide yourself to guide yourself. Like you decide on the discipline that you would like to have for certain things that you want to achieve, and then you go for it. You don't need to apologize to anyone. You don't need to explain to anyone. You do your own thing, irrespective of what others may think, because they think what they want anyway. And Saturn on the midheaven tends to consider what others think might not work out too much. Meanwhile, you can use the very same Saturn for sticking with your goals and achieving them, because it's the planet of discipline. Your discipline is in Sagittarius, which means wherever you go in the world, you can take this discipline with you and your decisions with you. So this will be anywhere in the world, because Sagittarius is just plain anywhere. So it can be far away country. Typically it's far away from the home country. The interesting thing is that Saturn is retrograde, as it's called, which puts a little more delay on the already delaying effect that Saturn has. Not sure if you've noticed, but you must have noticed that you take a lot of patience to get to results. Okay, so this seems to be the case. But where the trine that Saturn also has to your Venus, this has a stabilizing effect if you take the Saturn for yourself and own it. So you decide on the discipline and what you want to do, and then you go for it without considering opinions of others much, because they tend to be downgrading. They tend to tell you, come on, it's not going to work, stuff like that. What you think, it's never going to work out, stuff like that. And when we think this is true, then it becomes true. So this has an effect in the brain and slows us down even more. And this may be the entire effect that this Saturn has overall, because what we believe will implement in the life. It's like we are our own placebo, so to speak. And that's why taking a Saturn on midheaven as like your signpost and running with it, like owning it, deciding for yourself and insist to decide for yourself, this will be something very important for the choice of place of living, because this can be anywhere. Where it appeals to you is already fine. Should not be confined and too small. This won't work, I would think. So everything that appeals to your Venus would also stabilize, because Saturn has a very favorable trine to your Venus, and then you're already set. The home country won't be 100% ideal. Okay. This comes from your fourth house. Generally, your fourth house with the ruler Mercury has a Mercury in the sixth house in Cancer. So basically you want to belong somewhere. Belong somewhere.
Belong, yeah, exactly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In general, I would rather see you being the resident in a country like a citizen, because this would cater to the belonging aspect that you have with Mercury.
Okay.
Then you're not a foreigner. You're not in your home country, but you're also not a foreigner. For the emotional involvement in a country or in a place, this would be the best. I think in your case, this would feel the best also.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Was this a roundabout? I mean, it's not too clear, because with the chart you can do a lot of things, and basically I don't want to be too rigid in any interpretation, because if the chart allows the space, we shouldn't confine it, I think.
One tiny question then again. So say I'm picking a place to live then, somewhere like my home, somewhere that feels like I can be, that's open,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
like a house or like an apartment if I'm looking for a room to rent, you know. Mm-hmm. The design of the house, somewhere that is like open, like lots of windows and stuff like that. I've been confused on if I like very simple and minimalist, or if I like lots of space. Like there's always these like two things in my mind. So I like trying different things, but I'd like to hear your perspective.
Uh-huh.
And then fourth thing is like with the comfort thing of being like strict and everything like that versus being able to be more emotional. I wonder how that correlates to, so like I feel like I can think easier when I'm in places that have like blocks and like grid structure and that are flat versus if there's hills and curvy streets, like I get so confused and like I don't feel as mentally clear.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I see the two antagonist forces in that you describe in the chart, because the Venus in Leo would generally appreciate something very spacey, even luxurious. You would not mind to have something upmarket, to put it this way, or in like elegant decoration.
Mm-hmm.
But your moon in Capricorn would like the opposite. They would like the clear structure, the clean wall, the white paint, almost under-decorated, just what is necessary to have the space for the mind to roam around and not be distracted by too many, I don't know, items and vases and decorative items and paintings and whatnot. In general, I think you can combine this well in a modern environment, because a modern environment can be spacey and clear structured.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have, like, say, high quality furniture that is not over decorated but useful, but still have good quality standard, then I think you can combine those things well, but rather a modern building, I would say, because then you combine both in a nice and elegant way. Mhm. Let's move to the second question, maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. How can I find ways to make money that support my talents and gifts and take into account my sensitivities? What kind of work can I do to make money? We have the sixth house that represents the type of work that makes us money. So we can look at the sixth house in various ways, and then we can still see other ways where money can come in, which is maybe not work related. So we have your sixth house in Cancer, and then we need to find the ruler of the sixth house, which is the moon, and the moon is then in Capricorn in the 12th house. The first thing that we can say here is you are not going to make money in your home country, or less likely, because the ruler of the sixth house is in the so-called exile, like in the sign opposite the sign that he rules. This is the exile of the planet. And typically these people with exiled rulers of the sixth house earn money in a foreign country, somewhere abroad. So there you're also in the right place already. In the home country, I would say if you would stay in your home country, then this would be something like hidden away places, or like, because 12th house, or places like for spa treatments, for treatment overall, like an old age home or some kind of therapy treatment. Civil society organizations could be good. Then with moon in Capricorn, maybe also care for the elderly. Could be something nice to do and work well. So everything society related. If you stayed in your home country, this would be probably the only thing that would be in question, like some civil society organization, a hospice, for the elderly, something like that direction. And abroad, this would be like a bit of a bigger spectrum, but maybe also something that has to do with treatment overall. like civil society organizations would be probably the most ideal combination, I would say, because it would also cater to your Aquarius rising, which is generally interested in improving society. So it would not be a typical like accountant job that I would see there, but rather something where you can make a contribution, where you can even start as a volunteer to get to know the people. And then, because you ask, does it cater to the sensitivities? There I would think it would be the best you tried something with like volunteering first or an internship first to get to know the people and figure out, does this cater to my emotionality? Do I get along with these people well? And once this is checked, then you can still figure out in the environment if there is an opportunity for some paid work there as well. Once you get to like the type of work, this would be a good approach to take, I think. 2 planets also in the 6th house. The one is Mercury in Cancer, which would also point at some care and helping profession, like from the Red Cross across all the other types of civil society organizations would come to mind there. So this is also something, even speaking to old people in an old age home. Why not? Everything that cares for others would be a good idea there. And then Venus would mean that in general, wherever you land the job would be people who stabilize you, because trine from Saturn, and who would like you a lot. So there is the tendency of your 6th house speaks of generally a very agreeable work environment. The tendency is that colleagues are nice. So these 2 planets in the 6th house would typically also represent the types of colleagues that you have. If you get into a work environment, this would be the type of people you meet. Also caring people, loving people, kind people. So nothing much can go wrong there, actually. You would just need to find it, but generally the finding can be an issue because the moon in the 12th house sometimes hides things. So you would need to be actively behind it because you won't fall over it. Like, it's not that it's like comes by itself. So you would really need to go and be after it. Try it, approach people, find out about organizations, go meet there and check them out. And then when you feel these are kind people, they are nice, could even be a church. Why? Because your 10th house, the midheaven, 10th house starts in Sagittarius, and this would be for the career. And this can be all places that deal with law, with everything international, and also with religion. So it could even be working for a church. There is, at least I know a couple of churches who have active community work with schools and everything. So maybe even this direction. This would be a way to combine your 6th house with the 10th house, which is typically good. If you can combine career prospects and professional prospects, the 10th house, with the work that earns money from the 6th house. So that would be kind of a good combination. Maybe that, would you consider yourself interested in this direction, or is it rather your Sagittarius interest rather legal and less religious?
I like a lot of different things. I like both of those things. I'm just wondering, does my chart support having a job that's involved in an organization that already exists, or versus doing my own thing and going to different organizations and like being like a
freelance type?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You could do both. in general, even if you relate to an organization, maybe a looser contract with your Aquarius rising would be the better deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you will feel less restricted and freer to work. Where you can, like, for instance, choose the number of hours that you can commit and vary them a bit rather than this, like, also here the rigidity of like a 40-hour work week probably might not be 100% your style. There I would also recommend rather the freer and more flexible type of contract. Mm-hmm. Then we have the talents. The talents come very much with the entire chart. Your talent, we would also look at the 6th house and there at the Mercury. So there you have a caring talent and the communication talent in general. A communication talent in that sense that you are a good listener. Did you notice this? You ask questions and then you listen. The same style that we have here, actually. And this typically appeals to people a lot. So you are someone who takes in a lot, and by asking questions, people find out what they know, because you tend to point at things that are inside of them that they've never thought about. And through the conversation with you, these things come out. So you're rather a person who asks and listens well. So all the professions that cater to that would be good. Like rather not a teacher, because a teacher is like rather the person who would explain to others and talk himself a lot, rather the other way around. So that's why I think in everywhere care is involved, looking after others, this goes very much through conversation and through the type of conversation that you do well, like the asking questions, listening, and then absorbing what does this mean, and then asking the next smart question. This is what you do well. Yeah, I would think, yeah, everything relating to this type of conversation. And your sun would point the same direction. The sun always also gives the type of what we are from the personality. And a Cancer sun and a Cancer Mercury would both point the same direction. So this is a talent to create belonging, togetherness in a team, to involve people, you won't be shy to address people who don't seem to be well integrated in a team, for instance. You would go and talk to them, and this way you would integrate them into the entire conversation. And somehow this seems to be a thing that you don't even think about much. You just realize it is so, and then you go do it. Is this the case?
Yeah, I mean, I really love parties, and like I get so much energy off connecting with different people and like having people talk to each other and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this would be the most ideal. So if you can find an environment where you basically, I won't say you cater to the small talk, because what you do is not small talk. You talk about real life issues, and it can be even heavy themes, and you're not scared. So even difficult conversations, and there is a lot of people in the world who have difficult topics that they wrestle with, and they don't find people to talk to. Because typically, most people overall, I'm not sure if you noticed, but I tend to watch this a lot. People who don't have like a heavy heritage in terms of pain or painful experience in the past, they tend to escape from deep conversation. So you start a deep topic and they're gone, because they cannot handle the emotion that is basically always attached to some conversation like that. And you don't mind. And people almost smell that. So it might be that you're a person who hears quite a lot. Is this so? Like life stories.
Mhm.
Start a conversation and like 10 minutes later, you've heard like a whole life.
Yeah, yeah, they don't want to talk to me.
Or not at all, yeah.
Yeah.
You would be the person who would approach people, right?
Yeah.
Mm. I think that, yeah, this would be the main talents that I would see here. And your moon in Capricorn is a very good addition for this type of talent, because you're sensitive because it's in the 12th house. You feel very well how the other person is at that very moment, but it's also a protective shield. You know what is your feeling and also what is the other person's feeling, and you seem to differentiate that well. So you know the other person has had pain in the situation, but you know it's not your pain. So you can empathize much better than if you had, like, for instance, say a Pisces moon here, because then you would think it's yours. Meanwhile, you're still the interested person talking to someone, but you don't get washed away from the other person's pain, for instance. You still sit there and listen, and while the other person would talk, the pain will go away because someone understands what they've been going through without falling prey to the emotion. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So that's why I think all this would again point to work in an environment that deals with care in the widest sense. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Would this be something that makes sense for you so far with work environment?
Yeah, I'm just trying to like think of different ideas, but I can do that later.
Okay.
But what would that like be like a human resources even then, or not necessarily?
Human resources has changed a lot in the past, and they also care for the workforce. So yes, this could be also human resources. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What is like people development involved, things like this, yeah. Mm-hmm. Like trainings for people, organizing trainings, listening to the problems that they have, finding solutions, understanding the problems that they have. So like this direction, definitely, yeah. Mm-hmm. Then we also have, like, money can come in on various channels. We have the second house where we see what we have, like in terms of property. And we have the eighth house where we see what others give us. And so the ruler of the eighth house in your case is Venus, because the eighth house starts in Libra. And the ruler of the eighth house, what we receive from others, is in the sixth house. So that means you would receive from others like a part of your income that is maybe not work related, or scholarship, something like that, all these kinds of things. And the ruler of the second house, the first ruler is Pluto, then we have the other ruler, Mars, in the 12th house. In the 12th house, we don't have property, so we can write Mars off here, because this would mean the property that we have is being expended for the life, but is not accumulated. So Mars, we would write off in terms of property. And then the second ruler of the second house is Pluto. And Pluto is in the eighth house, what we receive from others. So it could be that you inherit something or receive like a larger present sometime or once in your life. Then we have question number 3. How can I find people that would make me feel healthy What type of friends should I be seeking out? Interesting question. What type of places can I go to find them? Very interesting question. You find the friends. There's the 11th house and the 7th house that we should look at here. You find the friends, 11th house, with the ruler of the 11th house. That's the first thing that we have a look here. So we look for Jupiter, and if you see my cursor here, Jupiter is in the first house in Pisces. So generally you would look for the ideal friends for you are very sensitive people, Pisces, with very honest attitude and personality for Jupiter. So this would be gentle and kind-hearted people, also generous. And here we have something that is a little bit tricky to interpret. You have an enclosed sign. You see that Pisces here doesn't have an own house. That means that the planets in the enclosed sign would only be freed under pressure. So it would not be that you be overrun by friends. You would have to go out deliberately and pick them. You find people that you relate to well and that match your criteria, and then you would pursue the friendship. This would be the way you can live as such a planet in an enclosed sign. So that doesn't come out by itself. You need to go and also inquire about the friendship, pursue it, ask people to meet, join them, and take action yourself. Then it would work well. You would also meet people who disrespect you. This would rather be the Uranus condition. On the one hand, Uranus is your ruler of birth, so this would be yourself. Okay? It can be that you yourself make certain friendships impossible. And you see the tension to the Jupiter here, the ruler of the friends, because your criteria are too strict. This is how I would translate. This is like a rather lengthy sentence now, how to figure this out. So there would be a generic tension whenever your standards are too high. And that can be that your standards are too high, that you expect too much in terms of the qualities that you expect. Like there are generally kind-hearted and sensitive people, but they will also have flaws. And I think it can be a good idea if you integrate that without pushing your boundaries. So that's like a very delicate thing to accept that people do have flaws, but if they're still lovable, then it would still be a person you would be able to relate to well as a friend for a long time. Okay. The easygoing thing, and that's now it turns out that this has a reason why you asked the question, because I won't say you're demanding, but you have high expectations. And then generally you have this Neptune in the 11th house, and typically this is people who are very well liked by many people. By so many that they don't know even. So it could very well be that this is something like even online, because this is really many. And typically you have a lot of actors and actresses with Neptune in the 11th house who become famous. So they have so many admirers that they cannot count them. This is the Neptune in 11 also. So you never know.
I never know.
No, you never know. It might be that, I don't know, you could start like a blog or like also a YouTube channel or something else online that goes big. So this would be one application. And then we have the question 4, how can I find a life partner that would make me feel healthy? What type of guys should I be seeking out, and what type of places can I go to find them? Very good question. You always ask the place where to find them. And I've skipped this part in your previous question, so I would quickly step back to the friendship part, where you find them. Now, the ruler of the 11th house is in the first house. So basically, that's an indication you must be a friend to yourself first, so that you know how it is that you wish that others treat you. Does this make sense? So if you treat yourself in such a way like a friend would treat you, you could also better pick what type of person would be good for you. And you would find them easier also, because then you would already know, so you would have practiced. And you would also know inside yourself when it's the right person. It would click. So then the ruler of the 7th house would be the partner. So the partner would be someone generous, because in Leo, and someone who would also like bonding very much, because the ruler of the 7th house, the sun, is in the 5th house in Cancer. So it would be a person that also likes to belong and to stick together. And it would also be a person who loves you and you love the person, because in the 5th house we also have the lovers. So you would be both. You would be the lover and the partner, which is a very good constellation actually. So if it's just a friendship, being the lover type of thing doesn't work so well, then it's maybe not the right thing. So in your case, both should be the case. Where you would find the person is also indicated by the house that we find the ruler of the 7th house in, and this is the 5th house. So this is everything concerning entertainment, sports, like also team sports, even like whatever sport appeals to you, that you also go to events where sport is played, not necessarily that you are doing the sport, but you also go there. Then everything that is like leisure related, 5th house. Team sport would be also good, because you would meet a person who wants to belong. So he will be probably interested in team sport, like everything from soccer to all kinds of other team sports. And it would be everything else where you can go in a leisure environment and have fun also. So maybe even also parties. If you said you like parties, this would be a place. So you don't meet the person that is like the ideal partner. You don't meet him like, for instance, in the professional environment. So it would be a private environment. This is indicated by the house that the ruler of 7 is found in. Then it would be someone who has quite some power, because you have a trine from the sun, like ruler of 7 has a trine to Pluto, which is good. So it would be someone who can support you, also financially. And it would be a very harmonious support, because it's a trine. So it would not be a question, be easygoing. And probably someone who also has professional power, because Pluto is someone who is typically regarded for a good standing in his field, someone who has also probably influence. So I won't say a strong man, but someone with quite some self-esteem. Yeah. Could be a man that is very family-minded, because also Cancer, the ruler of 7 in Cancer. And then we would also look at the Mars. If you say what type of man would appeal to me or would be good, then you have Mars in the 12th house in Capricorn. So this would be someone who is not permanently in the public, but rather a more private person, because 12th house. And it would be someone emotionally very stable, because Capricorn, and faithful. Like a Mars in Capricorn is faithful. And generally someone that would also have the qualities of the Jupiter that you would also look for in friends would be generally good, because this is a part of your personality here, and I won't disregard that. So definitely it's also a caring person who wants to belong. But since this is a harmonious aspect to Pluto, it would not be someone rough. Someone with standing who knows the influence that he has, but doesn't need to show it off, so to speak.
Two questions then about that. Like some people are saying, do I work with my spouse or does he have a different job? Or is it good for me to have a different job from my spouse?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
just like why do I get confused on relationships and like I think I get distracted by like people that that like are rough kind of like
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad that you spoke
Mm-hmm.
about this, but like can you say like why I would like get confused and say and have it be hard to say no kind of like
Mm-hmm.
is it like the feeling thing that I'm like blocked from my feelings or
Mm-hmm. I would think it's rather a boundary thing. The rough type would rather be, okay. Where it would appear rough is if a man would be just interested in pure sexuality. This would be the Pluto in 8 type of man with a square to your Venus. This would be purely interested in sexuality because Venus now rules the 8th house and Pluto is in the 8th house. So if it's only that, this may attract men who don't care about the rest much. This is the tension, is indicated with this tension here. And if it's a partner, you will see that he doesn't have this. That he would be very harmonious and respectful to your personality.
okay.
If it's just the physical approach first, so to speak, then it's probably an indication that it might not go the right direction, that it's the kind of only pushy for sex. Not that this is bad, but if it's the only thing, that it's this other type of connection that you might not want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I would rather look for someone with love in terms of more than just physical love, like really relating to another person on various levels, that type of more encompassing love. Yeah.
So you said that I could meet people at like parties or anything with recreation or sports. Like, would clubs fall into that, or would clubs not fall into that? Because like I like going to clubs. I know that we can't do that really now, but like, is that considered a good place, or is that too sexual of an energy, kind of like dance clubs?
Not, I mean, it's also entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you would see in the approach.
Yeah.
You would see in the approach which direction is it going. Yeah. But it would be also there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What else would we want? You asked whether you're going to work with your spouse. No, rather not.
Yeah.
Because there's no connection between your 6th house and the 10th house, and everything that revolves around the 7th house, the partner, and your sun. So there, I don't see a connection also to Mars. I would say rather not. No. It could be that you be in the background and taken care of, so to speak, financially. This could be so that you can basically pursue things that take longer to build up in the background. So where you don't need to make money immediately, you can rather take time to build up following on some blog or with, like, for instance, civil society organizations. If you don't earn like too much there, then it would also not be an issue. Like something like this direction is possible. So then basically you would be connected to the income of a spouse, but not in the sense that you work with him or for him. So like that you be cared for, but you can do something else.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there an indication that um, that I would meet a spouse in a foreign land, or like, yeah.
Well, the ruler of the seventh house is in good quality in Cancer, but that doesn't give an indication of the country. If you had the ruler of the seventh house in exile, I would say this is definitely someone from a foreign country. But here it's not specified. Can be basically anything.
And then, like, I just wanted to see if you had any random things you wanted to say. Like, I asked, like, what's my vibe? Like, what's my overall personality like?
So from the sun, you are a caring person with a sensitive soul, moon, but sensitive in a way that you're not kind of totally washed away by others' emotions, but you know very well what you sense. Can this be? You're completely aware of what you sense. And with a generous heart, this would be the Venus. And a great sense of freedom, this would be the rising. And social-minded person, like wanting to do something for society, for others, and also wants to belong. So I think you would know when you meet your partner, because you would be of the same type of longing for belonging. There won't be a doubt that this is now right. Yeah, and I would say it's interesting that you asked this being 34, because you would be now about in the age that you would meet the partner, because the trine here of the ruler of 7 is 3 degrees apart. So this is around about then not instantly, but about 30 plus years. So round about now. It might be that the partner also determines the country that you eventually stay in and connect to. Could be. Because it can be that you meet the partner while you travel, because this is also leisure. Interestingly enough, my sister-in-law had the same. My brother married after 3 weeks, met his wife, and she was just for vacation in the country and didn't have like a residence permit or anything. And so she couldn't have stayed. And after 3 weeks, she said, well, I'm so sorry, it was like great, but I have to leave. And my brother said, well, if you like, we can change this. And they married like practically overnight. And now they married, I think, 12 years or something. And it's like super happy marriage. And yes, went really well.
That's a cool story. I
Yeah,
like that. Anything that you see that you wanted to speak about?
I mean, not at the moment, I would say. But your chart is extremely interesting. So what I would do is play around a bit and see whether there's something that I find that also relates to your questions. And then we can do another call. Okay?
Okay.
Sometime later. Okay? Or if something comes up, please reach out anytime. Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, great. Then I wish you a great time and keep in touch. Okay?
Okay. Talk to you later.
Yeah, talk to you. Bye.
Bye.